Big day in Major League Soccer. It was November 13th when the MLS owners decided to vote in favor of changing to a European style calendar starting in the mid to late summer and then ending and having the playoffs in May. We obviously had a conversation with Jeremiah Oshan when it was noted that there was going to be a big topic of discussion when the owners met, but they went ahead and voted on it and released the news straight away. Big news yesterday coming out of Major League Soccer.
Yeah. I mean, as you can see here, this is the graphic they put out that indicates what it will look like when they make this change. If you are I think what's important here, because if you're a fan of soccer, you understand how most of Europe runs their calendar, right? We come out of the summer, we get into August, we kick off, we go through the rest of the calendar until we get to May, and then you kind of champion. Now, things that are fundamentally different about the way MLS operates compared to those European calendars, two things. Number one, you got playoffs. So you got to figure out where those are going to be included, how those are going to play out in your calendar. And number two, because of the weather, as you make this choice, because there are plenty of places in the United States where you can't play games in most of December, January, parts of February, maybe even later than that, MLS has baked in a significant winter break. I think they said from mid-December to early February. Rob, and if you're skipping over January completely, then we're talking about not 4 weeks, we're talking about 6.5 weeks of break there for Major League Soccer. So regular season from late July until December, take a break, come back in February, finish out the year, which will feel like a sprint that second part of the season.
Yeah, indeed it will. But I've seen in the conversation of it that the footprint of the season is about 91% the same. They're just rearranging the start time. So I think that was a way to abate people's concerns about playing in the winter. But as Jeremiah said in our interview earlier this week, that, MLS season was already starting in February. So that's just being scooched up just a little bit and then ending in mid-December for that break. So it's definitely interesting. Major League Soccer definitely gung-ho, or at least publicly gung-ho about this. And then in the reporting that's come out over the last 24 hours, I guess, was that this has been in the debate in the halls of power for quite some time. And apparently there was some frustration because I thought it was logical to do this in 2026 because they're going to have a weird overlap. And so they're going to have a mini sprint season or something. And that would have been optimal next year and then start this new calendar after the World Cup. But apparently there was enough argument counter to doing this that it took I guess a year longer than they would have.
Well, okay. I talked to Paul Tenorio on the radio yesterday, athletic writer, one of the guys that broke the news ahead of the MLS official announcement. And he said that he thought they had the support for this back in April when Don Garber talked about it for the last Board of Governors meeting, but they were not able to get it across the line for whatever reason. And so MLS kind of kicked the can down the road when they maybe didn't have to, or maybe could have moved faster and then could conceivably have gotten this done so that it could start post World Cup break in 2026. And think about the lost momentum. Think about the loss of the ability to sort of hype up your calendar change. And hey, you're going to watch the World Cup. Just come and join MLS, watch MLS. We're starting our new season. We're making this monumental change. We're moving towards the world calendar and all of that, but they didn't do it. And I don't look, you can't go back in time. You can't fix that now. What's done is done. So what MLS now has to do is sell this as the right thing for the league to do. I know my man Mike Thomas is in here. He's a Philadelphia Union fan. I think he's a little bit on the fence and skeptical about this and said, if they're going to do it, fine, but you got to really sell it. You got to make it count. You kind of can't half-ass this thing. And let's talk about the reasons, Rob. Let's break down the reasons they say they are doing this. Something that I think they described as strategic. What is it? Strategic
benefits of the calendar shift. So they laid out 4 major points of the benefits of this calendar shift. Number 1, optimize global transfer market activity.
Aligning with global. I'm going to do this in my announcer voice because it's the only way you can deliver this.
Corporate speak us.
Or I can do it like a corporate training video. Aligning with global schedules allows MLS to participate more effectively in the world's major transfer windows, improving opportunities to acquire and sell top talent. Insert your dumb music here. So do we buy this? I think, by the way, this being number one is a tell. Not that MLS cares about showing their hand here, but I think this is what this is about when you talk about selling the owners, Rob, because what is part and parcel of this move is potentially damaging your match day revenue. Potentially. Like, we don't know for sure. And you can argue about how much of the season is basically happening in the same part of the calendar. It's just a different part of the season flow. But this thing, to me, is why you were able to get MLS owners on board, because they are putting money into their academies, most of them, and they're not seeing the returns they think they should be seeing. And they have probably been told by their CSOs, by people who consult in the game, by people in Europe, hey, if your window's matched up with ours, we'd be way more interested in your players and your teams would be more willing to sell. So this, to me, is what this mainly is about. MLS wants to see a return on their development investment. The knock-on effect of how it impacts everybody else, not that it's secondary, but I don't think it is leading this. I think this is what's leading this.
We might dig into it a little bit more, but in the writing in the Athletic, they were saying that part of these changes is they want to go from local businesses to national and international business successes. So I think that's kind of an underlying thing that we can get into in a little bit.
I would love, and we're going to talk about some of the knock-on effects, and we're going to talk about the rest of American soccer and how they might respond to what MLS is doing. Is MLS going to be leading something? And we did again acknowledge that the Super League plays on this calendar already. But we're going to get to that knock-on effect. But I do want to know from everybody in the chat, do you care if this is about MLS owners wanting to make more money on selling talent? Do you care that that's their motivation if it means something good for you? If you like this move, right? If you like this move, do you care why they're doing it? Or does it take something away from it if they're like, well, we're just trying to make more money on selling players? I want to do that. Let's move on to number two.
Number two of the strategic benefits of the calendar change: maximize player signings.
So this is the other side of this, right? And again, this is what the CSOs, the chief soccer officers, the technical directors, the general managers, whatever title they hold, the presidents of soccer, whatever title they hold in their team, this is what they're telling their owners. We can't get the players in we want to get because the calendar doesn't line up. And even when players are out of contract in the summer, say, and MLS is like, well, we want to go out and buy a player. There are lots of players who are like, well, I got to wait and see if I get a contract offer here in Europe before I decide to come to Major League Soccer. Like, I can't sign with you now. And then the MLS window closes. Those teams miss out on those players, and those players go off somewhere else. They were considering MLS, but because the windows don't align exactly, and I believe one thing about this, by the way, Tom Bogert reporting that MLS will extend their summer window. With this move, they will add more time to the window for signings to happen. So again, this is not just marquee players, although that's part of it. The new calendar allows MLS teams to fully integrate summer signings before the MLS regular season and cup competitions begin. Right. This is just what everybody else gets to do. And if you are if you're swimming in the same waters for players as the second tier of leagues in Europe, occasionally top tier leagues in Europe, you want to be lined up.
Be kind of interesting to see if they maybe have a MLS adds like a cheeky week longer than the European or like the Premier League calendar. So they, that would almost like a player could use a Major League Soccer as like a leverage point, to if it doesn't work out there, that they'd have, more ability to go to Major League Soccer.
Absolutely. I mean, that is that necessarily benefit MLS? Maybe not, but it does pull
Gets
MLS
you in the conversation.
Into the conversation. Exactly. And when you click on transferrumors.net.biz. whatever, MLS is going to be more involved in those conversations than ever before because the windows line up. And I don't think that's a small thing to note. And again, maybe it's not driving everything. Maybe it's not the reason you do this. But if you are now involved more often in the offseason, closed season, transfer rumor mill conversations, it's an awareness thing. And companies pay millions of dollars just to have awareness, just so people know they exist and are constantly in front of people's eyeballs. And if that's something MLS gets out of this, well, that's a net positive for the league.
There's a lot less bumps in the road. It's a linear thing. You want a player, let's get a player is probably a goal that they're working towards. And you're talking about awareness. them acknowledging that the product on the field needs to match the improvements of the infrastructure around. Number 3 in the benefits of the calendar change, align with the FIFA calendar.
Mindful of FIFA international windows, the new calendar will significantly reduce conflicts between MLS league matches and national team call-ups for players, particularly during summer tournaments, rather. Yes, please. Thank you. Hallelujah. Praise the soccer gods. This is what we have been asking for, right? And there is absolutely a tension that has existed in MLS for a long time now as the league has become more and more important in the player market, where the CSOs, these team builders, these owners are like, do we sign that guy if he's going to miss 10 games a season because he's going away under international duty and MLS does not respect all the windows? Do we as a team choose not to play in a window because we've got too many internationals? Does that mean we ended up having to play an extra midweek date, which not only is tougher on the players if you're playing multiple games in a single week, but now also means maybe our match day revenue is impacted and all those things because it's harder to sell tickets in the middle of the week than it is on the weekend. Like, those questions should not be in front of MLS teams. They should be able to build a team without having to worry about their players missing games because they are first choice internationals. You should want first choice internationals, particularly among the top end countries. Right. The goal for MLS, just like every other league, is to have the best players possible. Well, if those players are constantly being called up by elite world-class countries, you don't get the benefit of them being in your team the way that you should. So, again, respecting the international calendar, taking the breaks, massive step forward if they do this.
And it's, again, elevating where the MLS conversation is in the broader conversation, because how many times have you seen, the light in someone's eyes getting disappointed when you're like, oh, Major League Soccer's playing during this? Like, that totally like devalues it. Look, when it makes it seem like, oh, we aren't enough to be even touching. Because that's what the lower leagues do.
You can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
You can't have it both ways. And sometimes MLS fans, and I don't know if you call them apologists, but though there was like, well, Brazil or Argentina or somebody is playing through the break. And it's like, yeah, but there's a reason those leagues are just feeder leagues to Europe for the most part with their top end talent. Yes, they matter. River Plate and Boca Juniors matter. Some of the most passionate fans on the planet follow those teams, and maybe they don't care. But if MLS is going to aspire to something different than what the Primera in Argentina is, or what the Brazilian league is, then you can't be playing through the breaks. You want to be like them, which is, I think, respectable, I think legitimate, but that's not how a lot of people view where MLS should go. You can't play through the breaks.
I did see noted in one of the articles in The Athletic that they may still play through the new October-November hybrid. There's FIFA is smashing together the October and November window. And I think
they're smashing together September-October window. So it's going to be late September into early October. That's a long break that FIFA's smashing. So it's instead of the week, basically, it's going to be 2 weeks. And you're right. Like there will still be choices, and different leagues will have to make different choices. And again, they can say this now because words are cheap and promises are promises. But if we go back and look at the proposed calendar, that winter break creates pressure now, because if you're playing 34 regular season games and a playoff tournament, when are you playing those games if you are taking every international break? So as they say this, and we want to believe them, we have to keep in mind that there still might be some problems with it.
Number 4 on the strategic benefits given to us by Major League Soccer. Simple. Elevate the playoffs.
Yeah, what does that mean? Well, it means that you're not competing with American football, at least in there will be competition with American football. The calendar still overlaps with American football because you cannot get away from it, but your playoffs will no longer be happening while the country is paying attention to American football, college and pro. And obviously, you mentioned the November break. The November break, smack dab in the middle of the MLS Cup playoffs, happening right now, completely erodes all the momentum you might get out of the playoffs. It says, uninterrupted by FIFA international match windows. So now you have a chance to run your playoff season the way it was meant to be run, without interruption. And hopefully, although there's no guarantee that this makes a massive difference, but hopefully allows for the league to get more of the oxygen for sports coverage in the country with, I think, the way that they plan this, and I'm going to go once again back to the proposed calendar, It says May for MLS Cup. So more than likely, you won't be running into the business end of the NBA or NHL playoffs. You'll be kind of towards the front end of those things where it's not as intense. You're not talking about crowning a champion in those leagues. So you will be more able to get attention for your playoffs. That would be my presumption about what that means.
The bar will seem low with this comment, but I am encouraged that there's an acknowledgement of the obvious issues that people have complained about. And in the next segment, we're going to talk about, what this all means and the knock-on effects of all this. But it is nice to see an acknowledgement of the roadblocks and the kind of the folly of the system and certain mechanisms in Major League Soccer. Just seeing the powers that be acknowledge those things is refreshing to a degree, but we didn't even necessarily touch on the format changes that comes along with this, because not only does the calendar, the time change, but the teams that everyone will play are going to change.
Well, that has not been officially confirmed by MLS, and that's one thing that Garber and Nelson Rodriguez and other people who have spoken about this move have said is we're still figuring some things out. Now, they obviously felt confident enough after the vote to make the announcement that they're doing the calendar switch, and I have to go way back in the chat because the chat is going strong. Thank you, everybody, by the way, for being members, being part of this conversation, dotting our map. I think I got to catch up on a couple of dots for MK Ultras, but I saw somebody mention that the USLPA needs to sign off on this, and that is part of the story here that maybe isn't getting enough attention, that the MLSPA rather is going to have to say, yep, we're on board with this, we're okay, changing our contract, calendars, things like that. I think ultimately this is a good thing for the players and they will get there. But as I was saying on the Best Soccer Show last night, go find that if you want more conversation on this. Jonathan Tannenwald joined us from the Philadelphia Inquirer. If you're the MLSPA, you don't just go, yep, we're 100% on board. You say, no, we want this in order to do what you want. Like, you use the leverage you have because they need your buy-in. So you should push for something, some concession, something that will benefit the players in the end. So that is part of this as well, Rob. But the format, what is out there right now as a distinct rumor is that they will move to a single table in terms of establishing who the playoff teams are, but go to 5 6-team divisions. So if you, and again, this is just what's out there as the reporting from Tom Bogert, Paul Tenorio, and the rumors, but that would mean that you make the playoffs based on your finish in the total table, and the 5 division winners, I think, would be guaranteed playoff spots from what I understand. Now, how that works with like where they finish and seeding, I don't know if we know that yet. But the math is you play everybody in your division twice, home and away. So that with local rivalries and things like that, regional stuff, that kind of makes sense, although you would be splitting up some rivalries depending on how they do this geographically. So that would be 10 games. And then you play the other 24 teams in the league once each, balanced through home and away. And now you have 34 games, just like the current regular season.
Seismic stuff coming to Major League Soccer. Interesting, this is coming in 2027. Obviously, they said that 26 would have been more beneficial to do this change, but the players' collective bargaining agreement expires at the end of 2027. So curious if they'll have to ratify this before this starts, because then we speculate a little bit with Jeremiah Oshan that like, oh, when they have a new CBA in 28, that might be the more realistic start time if they're starting anew. But maybe there's a ratification to happen prior to this. A CBA
is just a contract between the two parties. If they both agree to tear it up and start over and use the previous framework to create a new one that kicks off when this kicks off at the beginning of the 2027-28 MLS season, then it doesn't matter, right? It's just a matter of, again, getting the lawyers in the room and having those discussions.
And the whole divisioning thing, I saw some speculation already on. That's a fun conversation we can have in the future of how do you group those teams. And I saw some people making up sponsorships for all the naming.
I saw that too. Yeah, I saw some divisions where unfortunately you would have to separate San Jose from the Southern California teams, because now you have 3 Southern California teams. they could be grouped with the Texas teams to create sort of a Southwest division. Anyway, that's all speculation. As I said on my Blue Sky account, American soccer fans are format nerds, and while the calendar changes, like, yeah, okay, whatever, the division thing gets people really excited. I can't wait to make divisions for MLS. Anyway, let's consider the other impacts of this, Rob.
All right, we're going to wrap it up here. Subscribe as we're going along. Thank you to our new members, and be sure to click that button as we go